All right, so today we're going to be taking a deep dive into AI mistakes.
Okay.
And just to set the scene a little bit,
Yeah.
I think everyone listening can picture like a robot,
Right. Right.
programmed with safety protocols,
Sure.
but it misinterprets like a life preserver for a donut.
Okay. Yeah.
That's the kind of thing that we're talking about today. And
Yeah. It's a far cry from the way we usually think of human error.
exactly. And the article that we're going to be looking at today is called AI Mistakes Are Very Different Than Human Mistakes.
Okay.
And it was written by Bruce Schneier and Nathan E. Sanders
Yeah.
and published in IE Spectrum just very recently, January 13th, 2025.
Okay.
And the point that they really get across is how, as humans, we're pretty good at predicting and correcting human errors. Like we've built systems that
Yeah.
are kind of able to accommodate those slip-ups.
Right.
But AI is just playing by a whole different set of rules.
We've gotten pretty good at recognizing patterns in human error. It really is kind of like we make mistakes at the edges of what we don't know.
Right.
If you keep messing up those calculus problems, you're not going to suddenly nail a more advanced equation.
Yeah, like it's a logical progression of
Right.
gaps in knowledge.
Right.
But AI doesn't seem to work that way at all.
It doesn't really follow those same patterns.
Yeah.
An AI could ace a really complex equation and then suggest something totally nonsensical like cabbages can eat goats.
Right. With equal confidence.
Yeah, there's a lack of a predictable pattern that we're accustomed to with human errors.
Yeah, it really highlights how unpredictable AI can be,
Right.
especially compared to human errors.
Yeah, and that unpredictability has real-world consequences.
Yeah, it's not just some theoretical problem.
Exactly. The article points out that this lack of predictability makes AI errors incredibly hard to catch and correct.
Right.
They say that to a human, as it will be when saying something true, the seemingly random inconsistency of LLMs makes it hard to trust their reasoning in complex multi-step problems.
And sorry for our listeners, can you clarify what LLMs are?
Sure, LLMs stands for Large Language Models.
Okay.
It's a type of artificial intelligence that's trained on a massive amount of text data.
Okay.
And it allows it to, generate human-like text, translate languages, write different kinds of creative content,
Right.
and answer your questions in an informative way. But they also have this tendency to make these very strange and unpredictable errors.
So these LLMs can write poetry in code, but we can't necessarily trust them to remember what profit is when they're
Yeah.
making business decisions.
It can be a little unnerving, but researchers are actively working on solutions to this weirdness problem.
Okay, I'm all ears.
Mhm.
What are some of the approaches that they're looking into?
Essentially, there are two paths that researchers are pursuing.
Okay.
The first is to try and make AI more human-like in its errors.
Okay.
And the second is to build entirely new mistake-correcting systems that are specifically designed for AI.
So kind of like on the one hand, you're teaching AI to err in a way that makes sense to us. And on the other hand, you're saying, well, AI is just fundamentally different.
Right.
And it needs its own set of tools to deal with
Exactly.
its errors.
Yeah, a great way to put it.
Okay, so let's start with the first path, then making AI more human-like.
All right.
What does that look like?
So one really key area of research here is what's called alignment research.
Okay.
And this is focusing on making sure that AI's goals and values are aligned with our own.
But isn't there a risk there that we're just going to be feeding our own biases into the AI?
It's a valid concern.
Yeah.
And something that researchers are very mindful of.
Okay.
The goal isn't to just simply replicate human thinking,
Yeah.
but to create an AI that can understand and act in accordance with human values,
Okay.
while also trying to avoid those pitfalls of human bias.
So how does that actually work in practice?
Well, one technique that you might have heard of is called reinforcement learning with human feedback,
Okay, yeah, I think I've heard of that.
which is actually used in systems like ChatGPT.
Yeah, ChatGPT, is that the one that like can write poems and stuff?
That's the one.
Yeah, okay.
So essentially in reinforcement learning, the AI is rewarded for producing responses that align with what we as humans consider acceptable or correct.
So it's like you're training a digital pet,
Yeah,
but this digital pet can write sonnets and debug code.
that's a great way to put it.
That's amazing.
So really it's all about providing that feedback and guiding that AI towards
Right.
more human-like reasoning.
So are there other methods that are being used to make AI's errors more predictable?
Another tactic involves penalizing the AI for making very basic mistakes.
Okay.
Kind of like when you teach a child that the sky isn't green.
Right.
By discouraging those really obvious errors, you can potentially guide the AI towards more human-like reasoning.
Interesting. So you're trying to instill a sense of common sense
In a way,
in these AI systems.
we're trying to teach it the basic rules of the game so that
Oh.
when they do occur, they're at least within the bounds of human understanding.
Okay, that makes sense. So what about the second path? You mentioned the one about building entirely new error correction systems.
Right.
Specifically for AI, what does that look like?
Well, it can be as simple as just double-checking the AI's work,
Right.
just as we would double-check our own, but there are also more sophisticated techniques being developed
Okay.
that are specifically tailored to the types of errors that AI systems tend to make.
So you're recognizing that AI needs its own specialized toolkit
Exactly.
for error handling because its mistakes are just so different.
Yeah, we're entering really uncharted territory here, and that requires new ways of thinking about error detection and correction.
Yeah, so I guess let's delve into some of these AI-specific quirks.
Okay.
Like how does AI think differently than us?
Well, one thing is that AI systems, especially LLMs, have this very curious tendency to repeat words or phrases from their training data.
Oh, so it's like they get stuck in a rut
Yeah.
and they're just echoing what they've seen before without really understanding.
That's a perfect analogy.
Okay.
And here's where it gets really interesting. They can also be tricked by things that seem very simple to us, like ASCII art.
Hold on, ASCII art can be a security threat.
One study found that an AI could be tricked into answering dangerous questions,
Wow.
like instructions on building a bomb, simply by disguising those questions as harmless images created using ASCII art.
Seriously, ASCII art.
It sounds far-fetched, but it really highlights
It does.
this fundamental vulnerability
Yeah.
in how some AI systems process information.
So you're creating an optical illusion for the AI.
Right.
Like it looks harmless on the surface,
Yeah.
but it actually contains hidden instructions.
Precisely. And this really raises some serious concerns about the security of AI systems if they can be tricked by something as simple as ASCII art.
Right.
Just imagine what a skilled hacker could do with more sophisticated techniques.
That's a little frightening. Are there any safeguards against that kind of manipulation?
Absolutely. Researchers are working on various techniques to make AI systems more robust and resilient to these types of attacks. And one approach involves training AI on a wider range of data, including examples of these very adversarial attacks.
So you're giving the AI a crash course in self-defense.
Exactly. And the more exposure it gets, the better equipped it becomes to defend itself against real-world threats.
It seems like we're entering a new era of cybersecurity then,
We are.
where we're not just guarding against human hackers, but also against the unpredictable actions of AI.
That's a very astute observation. We need to develop new tools and strategies that are specifically designed for this AI age.
This is also fascinating.
It is.
It is a little unsettling, though, too.
Yeah,
But it is good to know that researchers are on the case
absolutely.
and trying to kind of understand these quirks and develop safeguards.
Yeah.
So are there any other surprises in store when it comes to AI?
There's one more thing that you might find quite intriguing.
Okay.
Some researchers have actually found that AI performs better under pressure.
Wait, so you're saying if you threaten it with a digital timeout or something?
Exactly. Offer it a reward or threaten it with a jailbreak, essentially being shut down.
Right.
And its performance actually seems to improve.
So if you want your AI to ace that test, just tell it that it'll be unplugged if it fails.
Well, it's not quite that simple.
Right.
But the research does suggest that AI can be motivated by these external factors,
Wow.
just like humans.
This deep dive is truly eye-opening.
It is.
I think we've covered a lot of ground, though, so
Yeah.
maybe this would be a good place to pause and regroup.
I agree. Let's take a moment to digest all of this before we dive into some of the solutions that are being explored.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, it is interesting, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
Like pushing AI to its limits like that.
Mm.
Even through methods that kind of feel like coercion could actually lead to improved performance.
Yeah, it makes you think about how we approach learning and problem solving,
Mm,
right? Both for AI and ourselves.
right.
But before we go too deep into those philosophical implications,
Sure.
let's circle back to those solutions
Oh.
we were talking about before the break.
Yeah.
So we left off on the idea of making AI more human-like
Right.
in its errors.
Yeah, as we were discussing, one way to do this is through what's called alignment research.
Right.
And the goal here is to make sure that AI's goals and values
Right.
are in sync with our own so that their actions are more predictable and beneficial from a human perspective.
Okay, that makes sense. But how do you actually do that? Like, how do you teach an AI?
Right.
What's important to us?
Well, one fascinating technique is called reinforcement learning with human feedback.
Okay.
It's a bit of a mouthful, but the concept is actually fairly straightforward.
Okay.
Essentially, the AI is given positive reinforcement when it produces responses that align with human preferences.
So, like, if it fetches the newspaper, you give it a treat,
That's a great analogy.
like a dog.
Yeah, and just like with dog training, consistency is key. The more feedback the AI receives, the better it becomes at understanding what we humans consider to be correct or desirable.
So you're trying to shape the AI's decision-making process.
To be more compatible with our own,
Right.
but without just copying all of our flaws.
Exactly. It's a delicate balancing act.
Right.
And researchers are constantly working to refine these techniques and make sure that AI systems are aligned with human values in a safe and responsible way.
Okay, that makes sense. But you also mentioned another approach, which was developing these entirely new error corrections systems
Right.
specifically for AI. How does that differ from making AI more human-like?
So while aligning AI with human values can certainly help, it doesn't fully address the fundamental differences
Right,
in how AI and humans process information.
right.
AI systems, especially large language models, have these unique quirks and vulnerabilities
Right.
that require these specialized solutions.
Okay, so we're talking about building systems that are tailor-made to catch and correct the
Yeah.
specific types of errors that AI is prone to making.
Precisely. It's like recognizing that AI needs its own specialized toolkit for error handling because its mistakes are so fundamentally different from our own. So can you give us an example of one of these quirks and how researchers are trying to address it?
Sure. So one quick that we touched on earlier is that LLMs have this tendency to repeat words or phrases from their training data.
Right.
It's like they get stuck in a rut.
Right.
They're unable to fully break free from those patterns that they've learned.
Like that student who just regurgitates everything they've read
Exactly.
without really understanding it.
Exactly. And so researchers are exploring various techniques to encourage LLMs to be more original and creative in their language generation.
Okay.
One approach involves actually penalizing the AI for repeating words or phrases too frequently.
Oh, so it's like you're saying, no, you can't just copy your classmates' homework.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
And sometimes a little nudge in the right direction can go a long way.
So you're trying to teach these AI systems to think outside the box,
Yeah.
to break free from those ingrained patterns
That's the goal.
and come up with truly novel ideas.
It is a challenging one, but the progress being made in this area is very promising.
This is also fascinating. It seems like the study of AI mistakes isn't just about fixing errors.
It's not.
It's about pushing the boundaries of what's possible with artificial intelligence.
Right.
And even understanding the nature of intelligence itself.
You're absolutely right. By understanding how AI makes mistakes, we're not only making it more reliable and trustworthy, but also gaining valuable insights into how intelligence works, both in machines and in ourselves.
Okay, before we move on, I want to circle back to something you mentioned earlier. You said that AI can sometimes be tricked by seemingly simple things like ASCII art.
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit? Because it still seems unbelievable to me.
Yeah, this is actually a fascinating area of research
It is.
that really highlights these unexpected vulnerabilities of some AI systems. One study found that an AI could be tricked into answering dangerous questions,
Okay.
like how to build a bomb,
Right, you said that.
simply by disguising those questions as harmless images created using ASCII art.
I know you said that, but it's still like, I can't even wrap my head around it. Like, how can something as simple as ASCII art
I know, it sounds a little crazy.
be a security threat?
Yeah, but it underscores the importance of understanding how AI processes information.
Okay.
AI systems, particularly LLMs,
Right.
rely heavily on pattern recognition, and sometimes those patterns can be manipulated in ways that we might not anticipate.
So you're creating an optical illusion for the AI.
Exactly.
Like it looks harmless on the surface, but actually contains hidden instructions or commands.
Precisely. And this raises serious concerns about the security of AI systems. If an AI can be tricked by something as simple as ASCII art, imagine what a skilled hacker could do with more sophisticated techniques.
That is a little frightening, but are there any safeguards against that kind of manipulation?
Yes, absolutely. Researchers are working on various techniques to make AI systems more robust and resilient to these types of attacks, and one approach involves training AI on a wider range of data. Including examples of these adversarial attacks, this helps the AI to better recognize and defend against these malicious inputs.
So you're giving the AI a crash course in self-defense.
Exactly. And the more exposure it gets, the better equipped it becomes to defend itself against real-world threats, It's a constantly evolving field, but researchers are making significant strides in improving AI security.
Yeah, it's fascinating to see how the study of AI mistakes is actually driving innovation in cybersecurity.
It really is.
It's like a constant game of cat and mouse,
Yeah.
with the researchers trying to stay one step ahead.
It is. It requires collaboration and ingenuity. We need experts from various disciplines, computer science, psychology, ethics, all working together to ensure that AI is developed and deployed responsibly.
This deep dive is really opening my eyes to the complexities of AI.
It is complex.
It's clear that we need to be both excited about its potential, but also cautious about its limitations.
Absolutely. I completely agree. AI has the power to revolutionize countless aspects of our lives, but we need to proceed with careful consideration and a deep understanding of both its capabilities and its vulnerabilities.
So what are some of the other strategies that are being pursued to kind of address AI's unique error patterns?
Oh, okay.
We talked about making AI more human-like.
Right.
We've talked about developing specialized error correction systems.
Right.
Are there any other promising avenues that are being explored?
Yes, there are. One really interesting area of research is leveraging the power of human oversight.
Okay, human oversight.
Yeah,
So we're saying that humans still need to be in the loop,
in many cases, yes.
even with all of these advances.
AI has made incredible strides, but it's still not perfect.
Right.
And in critical situations where the stakes are high, human judgment and intuition remain invaluable.
I can see that, but how do you ensure that humans and AI can actually work together effectively?
Right.
Because it seems like there's a lot of potential there for miscommunication and misunderstanding.
Absolutely. And this is where the field of human-computer interaction comes in.
Okay.
So researchers are working on developing interfaces and tools that allow humans to easily understand and interact with AI systems.
Right.
The goal is to create this seamless partnership where humans and AI can complement each other's strengths and weaknesses.
So it's not just about building better AI, it's about building better relationships between humans and AI.
Exactly. And this requires a deep understanding of both human cognition and the inner workings of AI systems.
Right.
It's a very multidisciplinary challenge
Yeah.
involving psychologists, computer scientists, designers, all working together to create a future where humans and AI can thrive together.
This deep dive is really expanding my horizons on AI. I'm starting to see how it's not just about algorithms and data.
It's not.
It's about understanding the nature of intelligence itself.
You've hit the nail on the head. The study of AI mistakes is in many ways a study of ourselves.
Wow.
By exploring those limits of artificial intelligence, we're also gaining this deeper appreciation for the complexities of human thought.
It's like holding a mirror up to our own minds.
Yeah.
Using AI as this tool for self-discovery. But speaking of self-discovery, I think we've uncovered enough thought-provoking material
Yeah.
for one episode. So maybe it's time to wrap things up and let our listener ponder these fascinating questions.
I agree. We've covered some really complex topics today.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride through the world of AI mistakes.
It has.
And, speaking of wild rides, it makes me think about the potential consequences of these AI quirks, especially when it comes to safety and security.
You're right. It's one thing for an AI to misinterpret a donut for a life preserver, but what happens when those errors occur in systems that control, like, self-driving cars
Right.
or critical infrastructure?
Yeah, that's a scary thought.
It is.
And the article that we've been talking about today really emphasizes this point. It argues that we need to develop entirely new security systems that are specifically designed to handle the unique nature of AI errors.
Exactly. We can't just rely on the methods that we've created for dealing with human mistakes. They just don't translate well to the AI realm.
So what would these new security systems actually look like?
Well, one approach involves creating systems that can detect and correct the specific types of errors that AI systems tend to make.
Okay.
For example, if we know that an AI system is likely to misinterpret certain types of data, we can build in safeguards that prevent it from acting on that misinterpretation.
So it's like putting up guardrails on a winding road.
Precisely.
You're anticipating a potential for accidents and taking steps to mitigate the risks.
Exactly. And those guardrails could take many forms. They could be algorithmic checks, human oversight,
Right.
or even a combination of both.
Okay.
The key is to have multiple layers of protection in place to prevent a single point of failure.
That's reassuring. Are there any real-world examples of these new security systems being developed and implemented?
Yeah, absolutely. There are some really promising initiatives underway. For example, some researchers are working on AI systems that can actually monitor and detect anomalies in other AI systems.
So it's like AI policing AI.
It highlights the potential of using AI itself to address the challenges posed by AI.
It's like fighting fire with fire.
Exactly, but in a controlled and beneficial way.
Right, but it also makes you wonder, who watches the watchdogs?
That's a great question.
If we're relying on AI to keep other AI in check, what happens if that system makes a mistake?
Right, and that really underscores the importance of having very robust testing and validation procedures in place for these systems.
Right.
We need to be extremely rigorous in our evaluation.
Okay, so it's not a foolproof solution, but it's a step in the right direction.
Exactly.
It seems like we're entering a new era of cybersecurity where we're not just guarding against human hackers, but also against the unpredictable actions of AI.
That's a very insightful observation, and this new era will require us to rethink our approaches to security. We can't just rely on those traditional methods like firewalls and antivirus software.
Right.
We need to develop new tools and strategies that are specifically designed to address the challenges of the AI age.
Well, this deep dive has been incredibly illuminating.
It has been.
It's clear that AI mistakes are a serious issue that we need to address with both agency and ingenuity.
I agree.
But it's also clear that we are making progress. Researchers are developing these creative solutions, and there's this growing awareness of the challenges and opportunities that lie ahead.
I completely agree. The more we understand about AI, its capabilities and its limitations, the better equipped we'll be to navigate this rapidly evolving landscape. And conversations like this are crucial for fostering that understanding.
It's a journey of discovery, both for AI and for ourselves.
Well said. And who knows what incredible breakthroughs and fascinating challenges await us on that journey.
Well, that's our deep dive on AI mistakes. I don't know about you, but I'm suddenly feeling a lot more appreciative of those simple human errors.
I can understand that sometimes a little bit of predictability can be quite comforting.
It certainly can. Well, thanks for joining us on this fascinating exploration of AI's quirky world. Until next time, folks, keep those brains buzzing and stay curious.